Good early afternoon, philosophers. Good to be with you again today. Good to be alive again today. Let's get started. So we're probably going to finish book 4 and then get into book 5. Pardon me while I smash my phone so that it stops making the incessant... Oh my god, I still haven't defeated the phone. The phone might be my most formidable enemy. Okay. Number 48. Don't let yourself forget how many doctors have died. After furrowing their brows over how many deathbeds. How many astrologers after pompous forecasts about others' ends. How many philosophers after endless disquisitions on death and immortality. How many warriors after inflicting thousands of casualties themselves. How many tyrants, after abusing the power of life and death atrociously, as if they were themselves immortal? How many whole cities have met their end? Helike, or Helike? I don't know. Pompeii, Herculaneum, and countless others. And all the ones you know yourself, one after another. One who laid out another for burial and was buried himself. And then the man who buried him, all in the same short space of time. In short, know this. Human lives are brief and trivial. Yesterday a blob of semen, tomorrow embalming fluid, ash. To pass through this brief life as nature demands, to give it up without complaint, like an olive that ripens and falls, praising its mother, thanking the tree it grew on. Almost like a fetishizing of devaluing life. I mean, yeah, we've talked about it before. Number 49. To be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. 49a. It's unfortunate that this has happened. No, it's fortunate that this has happened and I've remained unharmed by it, not shattered by the present or frightened of the future. It could have happened to anyone, but not everyone could have remained unharmed by it. Why treat the one as a misfortune rather than the other as fortunate? Can you really call something a misfortune that doesn't violate human nature? Or do you think something that's not against nature's will can violate it? But you know what its will is. Does what's happened keep you from acting with justice, generosity, self-control, sanity, prudence, honesty, humility, straightforwardness, and all the other qualities that allow a person's nature to fulfill itself? So remember this principle when something threatens to cause you pain. The thing itself was no misfortune at all. To endure it and prevail is great good fortune. Number 50. A trite but effective tactic against the fear of death. Think of the list of people who had to be pried away from life. What did they gain by dying old? In the end, they all sleep 6 feet under. Cadicianus, Fabius, Julian, Lepidus, and all the rest. They buried their contemporaries and were buried in turn. Our lifetime is so brief, and to live it out in these circumstances, among these people, in this body, nothing to get excited about. Consider the abyss of time past, the infinite future. 3 days of life or 3 generations, what's the difference? Here it is again. Life is an amazing thing, a treasure. I mean, to have your atoms stuck together in such a way that you are self-aware and sentient and can experience pleasure. I mean, what an amazing, fortunate turn of events. It's precious. It's not something to not be worried about. There is a huge difference between 3 days of life or 3 generations. It is something to be excited about. I don't know that we should be afraid of death, but we shouldn't, make it our best friend either. Oh, 51. Take the shortest route, the one that nature planned, to speak and act in the healthiest way. Do that and be free of pain and stress, free of all calculation and pretension. Alright, that's the end of book 4. Let's go ahead and get started with book 5. Number 1. Oh, this is good. This is a good one. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of? If I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do. Or is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm. But it's nicer here. So you were born to feel nice instead of doing things and experiencing them? Don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants, and spiders and bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best they can, and you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what your nature demands? But we have to sleep sometime. Agreed, but nature set a limit on that, as it did on eating and drinking. And you're over the limit. You've had more than enough of that, but not of working. There, you're still below your quota. You don't love yourself enough, or you'd love your nature too, and what it demands of you. People who love what they do wear themselves down doing it. They even forget to wash or eat. Do you have less respect for your own nature than the engraver does for engraving, the dancer for the dance, the miser for money, or the social climber for status? When they're really possessed by what they do, they'd rather stop eating and sleeping than give up practicing their arts. Is helping others less valuable to you, not worth your effort? I mean, this is a pretty motivational one. I don't think that you have some kind of purpose handed down to you from nature or dictated to you from nature. Outside of life, like, once you've chosen to live, then you have some obligations. You need to, take care of yourself and make decisions that comport to living. That's good. Also, this section recognizes that life includes suffering to some degree, to a degree of your choice. It's like you have to take on a certain number of tasks that bring suffering with them in order to live longer. But if you take on too much, then that shortens your life. So it's something that you have to find a balance in, right? Like, to take on a responsibility that will extend your life or bring you more resources or bring you happiness, you're going to be taking on tasks and responsibilities that come with some amount of stress. You're going to be caring about things that come with some amount of stress or some amount of pain or hardship or risk. It's like a muscle. You sort of have to work the muscle to make it stronger. Life is a lot like that. And this kind of recognizes that. So you were born to feel nice? Well, I would say, would we really feel nice if we just stayed in bed? Maybe for a day, maybe 2. But after that, I think you'll start getting pretty miserable. You need challenge. You need a little adversity. And you were built to handle it. That's one thing we were talking about last night around the campfire. You're the product of a long line of people that survived everything that was thrown at them long enough to make a baby human and then rinse and repeat hundreds and hundreds of times to get to you. You can handle more than you think. And you can choose, I'm just preaching now, you can choose how to handle it, mentally. You can enjoy the adversity, or at least, not let it affect you or harm you, as Marcus Aurelius would say. Number 2. To shrug it all off and wipe it clean, every annoyance and distraction, and reach utter stillness. Child's play. Number 3. If an action or utterance is appropriate, then it's appropriate for you. Don't be put off by other people's comments and criticism. If it's right to say or do it, then it's the right thing for you to do or say. That's good. The others obey their own lead, follow their own impulses. Don't be distracted. Keep walking. Follow your own nature and follow nature along the road they share. Number 4. I walk through what is natural until the time comes to sink down and rest, to entrust my last breath to the source of my daily breathing, fall on the source of my father's seed, of my mother's blood, of my nurse's milk, of my daily food and drink through all these years, what sustains my footsteps and the use I make of it, the many uses. Number 5. No one could ever accuse you of being quick-witted. All right, but there are plenty of other things you can't claim haven't got in you. Practice the virtues you can show. Honesty, gravity, endurance, austerity, resignation, abstinence, patience, sincerity, moderation, seriousness, high-mindedness. Don't you see how much you have to offer beyond excuses like can't, and yet you still settle for less? Or is it some inborn condition that makes you whiny and grasping and obsequious, makes you complain about your body and curry favor and show off and leaves you so turbulent inside? No, you could have broken free a long way back, and then you would have been only a little slow, not so quick on the uptake. And you need to work on that as well. That's slowness, not something to be ignored, let alone to prize. Number 6. Some people, when they do someone a favor, are always looking for a chance to call it in. And some aren't, but they're still aware of it, still regard it as a debt. But others don't even do that. They're like a vine that produces grapes without looking for anything in return. A horse at the end of the race. A dog when the hunt is over. A bee with its honey stored. And a human being after helping others. They don't make a fuss about it. They just go on to something else, as the vine looks forward to bearing fruit again in season. We should be like that, acting almost unconsciously. Yes, except conscious of it, because it's characteristic of social beings that they see themselves as acting socially, and expect their neighbors to see it too. That's true, but you're misunderstanding me. You'll wind up like the people I mentioned before, misled by plausible reasoning. But if you make an effort to understand what I'm saying, then you won't need to worry about neglecting your social duty. Number 7. Prayer of the Athenians. Zeus rain down on the land and fields of Athens. Either no prayers at all or one as straightforward as that. Number 8. Just as you overhear people saying that, quote, the doctor prescribed such and such for him, like riding or cold baths or walking barefoot, say this, quote, nature prescribed illness for him, or blindness, or the loss of a limb, or whatever. Their prescribed means something like ordered, so as to further his recovery, and so too here. What happens to each of us is ordered. It furthers our destiny. When we describe things as taking place, we're talking like builders, who say that blocks in a wall or a pyramid take their place in the structure, and fit together in a harmonious pattern. For there is a single harmony, just as the world forms a single body comprising all bodies, so fate forms a single purpose, comprising all purposes. Even complete illiterates acknowledge it when they say something brought on this or that. Brought on, yes, or prescribed it. And in that case, let's accept it as we accept what the doctor prescribes. It may not always be pleasant, but we embrace it, because we want to get well. Look at the accomplishment of nature's plans in that light, the way you look at your own health, and accept what happens, even if it seems hard to accept. Accept it because of what it leads to, the good health of the world and the well-being and prosperity of Zeus himself, who would not have brought this on anyone unless it brought benefit to the world as a whole. So nature would do that, bring something about that wasn't beneficial to what it governed. So, there are 2 reasons to embrace what happens. One is that it's happening to you. It was prescribed for you, and it pertains to you. The thread was spun long ago by the oldest cause of all. The other reason is that what happens to an individual is cause of well-being in what directs the world, of its well-being, its fulfillment, of its very existence even. Because the whole is damaged if you cut away anything at all, from its continuity and coherence. Not only its parts, but its purposes. And that's what you're doing when you complain, hacking and destroying. Yeah, this is a dangerously misguided line of thought that, like, nature prescribes things to you. Like, look, if nature did anything, it created a rational being that's self-aware enough to realize that in a lot of circumstances we have to fight and claw and destroy nature to further our own survival and to live longer. For example, leukemia. I don't give a shit if somebody thinks nature prescribed leukemia to my daughter. I'm going to destroy whatever stands in the way of my daughter living longer. Just for one example. I'm not going to accept that as a natural prescription, a natural fate that I should, I don't know, be okay with happening. Screw that. Screw that. I exist. And I'm going to work to further that existence. Okay. Something I think in book 4 was kind of surprisingly along the lines of what I wanted to think about today. I can't remember the quote now. But, It's a take what you want and pay for it sort of thing. It's a, you get to choose what you are worried about. And I know I guess we've talked about that from several different angles over the past several weeks or whatever, but it's on my mind again, but in a different way. It's kind of in this way, in a more broad life sense, like, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I started choosing to care about the state of the world, about learning philosophy, about learning liberty, and then about improving the state of the world by waking more people up to the principles of liberty. I took that on. I decided. I didn't realize it at the time, but I took on changing the world as a goal. And what comes with that, without a recognition of just how mostly powerless you are to actually accomplish that goal of changing the world, what comes with that is a lack of fulfillment, because it's not something that you can really move the needle on as a single person very much. A lack of fulfillment, frustration, you feel like, you've put in a lot of effort and failed. There's a sense of failure after doing it for so many years. And reading what we've been reading has kind of woken me up to that fact that I chose to care about. I chose to attempt to change the world. I chose to take that on as a project, as an endeavor, certainly for the last 4 to 5 years, in earnest. But I took on that endeavor. I cared about that effort without a similarly sized, an appropriately sized understanding of just how little I would personally be able to move the needle in any appreciable way that I would recognize or sense. And so I kind of went into that unguarded from the negative feelings of, hey, I can do I've put a lot of work. I put a lot of work into making a lot of videos and doing a lot of events and all kinds of stuff. A lot of work. Are we any more free today? Have I moved the needle even a little bit? I think yes, a little bit. I've definitely made some new voluntarists. But in general, not enough to actually change my life in an appreciable way yet. So it kind of feels futile, but it wasn't. I know it wasn't. It's just, we got to be extra careful when we commit ourselves to things, to projects, when we tie our effort, when we tie our, like, I like to be productive. I like to show a benefit that I like to What am I trying to say? I like to be productive. So if I'm going to spend my time on something, I want a return on that investment of time. And when you have huge scope projects where you can't say that you've done nothing or have done nothing or haven't produced something, but that your ability to produce something is tiny, you have to be careful to make sure you keep your emotions, your feelings, your understandings, your sense of self-worth and all that stuff at an appropriate scope, I guess is what I'm saying. So yes, take what you want and pay for it. If you want to choose activism towards liberty, just realize what you're taking, because you're going to pay for it. You know, you're going to put in a lot of time and effort, and, you know, chances are 10 years later, the world is going to be in the middle of a COVID tyranny headed in the wrong direction. And so you have to kind of make a choice then. Okay, well, look, I burned 10 years of my lifespan working on this. Do I want to burn another 10 years and make another tiny small needle move? Yeah, probably. But at the same time, I need to keep it in perspective that, look, this is still my only existence. I need to make sure that I'm taking time to direct my effort towards me enjoying life and being happy and having a good time with my family and friends. This is one of the things I was thinking about on this camping trip that I went on, was that, you know, I need me time. I need productive time in other areas, especially in other areas where I can get a return on that investment, where I can see a you know, something productive coming out of it. Because I need that. I think most people do, but that could just be projecting. I need to be productive. I need to create things. I need to produce things. I need to figure things out. I need to see effects from my efforts. And I think for a while I was too hyper-focused on activism, and that started getting out of balance for all the reasons I just talked about anyway. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking about today. Take what you want and pay for it at every level, including your job. Like, your jobs, your activism, your effort, your relationships, all that stuff. Take what you want, know what you're taking, and accept the costs up front. Okay, have a great day, guys.